I'll tell you why. Wait a second. Before everybody jumps down my throat, just hear me out for a minute. The reason why I say jump is many, many reasons. Let me point them out. First of all, this song was a stigma. It was a stigma for Ed. It was a creative moment that made him break through the whole new section of his career and into starting his own studio, taking more control of the band, and opening the band up to a wide demographic. And like Dave said earlier in the conversation, setting the stage with Beat It, Jump was the perfect next step to that, because he basically created a bridge all the way from the rock community into a whole wider musical palette. Now, I know everybody says, "Oh, it's wimpy. It's it's a pop song. It's this and that," and I understand all that. It gave their band their first #1 song. It took them to a whole new audience. It became a song of the decade. It's become an anthem that has become a calling card for Van Halen, that has opened up the fan base even bigger and allowed them to have more hits and more albums and more tours. It started his studio. It was an incredible moment of growth. He also, with that song, went against Ted, went against Dave, Warner Brothers. He proved to everybody that he had the goods and that he was right. And by pushing forward with this idea that he had another one with a little idea he's been tinkering with from the tapes, and he kept pushing for it, kept pushing for it. And it was this song that broke down the wall and created the overflow of creativity for Ed for decades. So, and also in the process, earned him respect, created a song that defined the decade of the 80s. It's a song today that's still played on the radio daily, that everybody knows. My mother knows that song. It becomes a calling card, and yes, it's overplayed. And yes, it's a massive hit, and it's their biggest hit, and it's, oh, why do I need to hear Jump again? Eddie Trunk says it all the time, this and that. It's not about that. It's about what that song did. And it created so much of Eddie's world that we would not have had he not done that. So that's why that's my #2.
I agree with everything you said.
All right. Look at that.
In fact, I had it on an early draft of my list.
Okay.
So for a lot of the reasons you said.
Okay.
Its effect and influence on music and on the band, you just can't disagree with it. So kudos to you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. You're #1.
You're welcome. My #1, predictably, Eruption. What is it, like 2 minutes, if that?
It's
2 minutes
something
of guitar,
right?
That changed the world,
right?
That everybody else who was playing guitar professionally at the time was like, uh-oh. And other people who were learning guitar, you did two things. You were like, man, I got to step up my game.
Right.
Or you put the guitar down and were like, I'm done. I can't be as good as this guy. And this was just a warm-up. These were warm-up exercises for when he played live. I mean, that's the crazy part. And Ed always said he messed it up when he recorded it. And Ted Temple was like, I don't care, sounds good to me. But, man, you just can't take that away. And the fact that it eases right into You Really Got Me, and I think really helps bring out the solo in You Really Got Me, especially when you hear Eruption first, because Ed does some of the same things in there. But, man, the way he plays and what he brought to the lead guitar in 1978, everything's there in that song.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's my #1.
Absolutely. And my #1 How many say I? No, I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh. I was like, oh my, I'm sitting down again.
No. I, too, have Eruption as number one. Great minds again. This finger exercise turned into a legendary track that is the only guitar solo that is a hit track. And it is not even a song. Really, it's not even a song. It's just a track. There's a reason it's the first song on their greatest hits album. Radio stations play it. And when Ed plays it live, no one goes to the bathroom or gets a beer, and everyone pays attention. In fact, the man could not leave the stage without playing it. So that's a rarity in and of itself. He basically inspired generations of guitarists, and it really is sort of like his Beethoven's Fifth, in a way. You know what I mean? Like Beethoven has the Fifth Symphony, which is such a signature piece. This is that level of mastery in the rock era, and really there is nothing that you can point to. And this is also why I still say that Ed is the greatest guitarist of all time, because there's no other track like Eruption, okay, that is just guitar, that has that level of inspiration that I think could compete with it. I mean, there's songs and stuff, that solos and songs and, you know, great moments and stuff, but I don't think anything has spawned more guitarists than Eruption. 42 years later, it is still mind-blowing. There is children out there trying to play this song. There are people that have played it on keyboards, on other instruments. It is that level of insane. And the funny thing was, like Dave said, it wasn't even done on purpose. It was an exercise that Ted masterfully taped and put together. And, you know, maybe one day we'll hear the outtakes of it or the extended version of it. The way even Ted captured it on the album, if you think about it, you could hear every nuance, and it's unbelievable. I've heard it 6,000 times, and I never, ever get bored of it. It's always so amazing. Everybody points to it, and it is certainly just a piece of masterful playing on Ed's part. It's beyond. It's like his signature, you know? I mean, there's so many things that he's done, and my God, he did it so early. I mean, he was literally a kid when he did it. So
yeah, he was like, what, 21 or something like that?
Well,
22?
let's see. And I figure he was in 77 when he did it, when he recorded it. In 77, I was 7 years old. He's 15 years older than me, so he was like 22. Unbelievable. The man will live on through his music. It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. So that you'll be hearing Eruption till the end of time. In fact, you'll hear it even more now. That kind of wraps us up here. What can we say? You know, I mean, Ed is going to be missed, but we have all his music, and we might be hearing more. And it would be it'd be incredible if we did, and we'll see what happens. I look forward to what Wolf brings. I really do. I really look forward to what Wolf brings. I want to see what that guy has in store, because, you know, Wolf might have his own Eruption, and it, you know, may not be a guitar solo. Maybe it's something else. It could be any form. I mean, Wolf plays a lot of different instruments, but I think, you know, good genes are good genes, so we'll see how far the apple falls from the tree.
Hey, can I throw in an honorary mention?
Oh, honorary mention.
I have an honorary mention. I have an honorary mention.
Okay.
For crossing over.
Oh, yeah. It's a heartbreak it's not on the album.
Yeah, well, and that's the last song anybody heard from the first time of the Hagar era. And I just think that's an epic song. And it's very much an Ed song because he wrote it for a friend. But it's even more bittersweet now because you think about Ed crossing over.
Of course.
I just think that was one of the best things. I've said this before. One of the best things the band put out with any lead singer. Certainly one of the better ones with Sammy. Like, how many say I is associated with Ed?
Yeah.
For different reasons. But this song is also associated with Ed. And I just thought it was a really great song that deserves people's attention. So if you haven't heard it, go out there and find it. It's definitely worth your time.
Without question. I'm going to put it out there that I hope, just dealing with the typical things that happen when people pass, they tend to republish stuff or put stuff out. If they do put out Balance again, I would suggest them considering putting Crossing Over on that release because it is too good a piece of work to leave off. And I also want to step in here and say, if we're going to indulge in honorable mentions, tit for tat over here. So I'm going to throw my throw my little hat in the ring, and it happens to come from the same album. So I am going to the track that was left off my top 10 as an honorable mention was Balukatherium, the Van Halen brothers' unbelievable romp. We all know there were some issues with Sam during the recording there, and, obviously maybe he didn't want to write another song or whatever, and the boys just ended up going into this jam. Eddie is spreading his wings here, and he's really proving that him and Alex know how to groove on this song. There's so many layers to it. I know I've said this over and over and over again during this segment of the podcast, but it's a must listen to in earphones to properly catch all the nuances. Eddie has so many layers here. Bruce Fairbairn, who was the producer on the album, really, really captured Ed's sound and all of his animal tricks and little nuances. It shows all different sides of his crazy personality, and I understand it was kind of done at the last minute, and I'm glad that it was, because I think it's one of the best parts of the album, and it's another one that over the course of time has really stood up beautifully, and I'm so excited that you mentioned your honorable mention, because it was killing me to leave this off, so I wanted to mention that one as my honorable mention.
Excellent. I like that choice.
Yeah.
I like that choice.
Awesome.
Very good.
Well, that wraps this up. And we are moving on to our interview with Jake C. Miller from Completely Unchained, Van Halen tribute band. Jake is literally the premier Eddie Van Halen tribute guy, or clone, or whatever you'd like to call him. And I spoke to Jake to get his feelings. He's so close to Eddie. He lives and breathes Eddie Van Halen, and I spoke to Jake about his experience. He's been out playing some live shows, and we talked about what the vibe has been like out there now that he's playing, and how's it been for him. I discussed that with him. We also have an interview with Derek Sherinian, the keyboard player from Sons of Apollo, Black Country Communion. He's a solo artist. He played with Billy Idol. He played with Alice Cooper. He played with Kiss. But most importantly, he's incredibly inspired by Ed. And that is all coming up on this incredible Rocktober edition of Dave and Dave Unchained. Take a listen.
What I dreamt was that we would be famous, but not famous in the way the word means. Not to walk down the street and everyone would go, "Hey, that's him." Not like that, but famous in a way that people like the music we make. I would love to be the Invisible Man and just play.
Author Greg Renoff is back with a new book, Ted Templeman, A Platinum Producer's Life and Music. The new biography of the record producer Ted Templeman, who went on to produce Van Halen, the Doobie Brothers, Van Morrison, Aerosmith, Sammy Hagar, and more. The book, which runs $19.95, and it's currently available at Amazon.